the We Wreck Records podcast.
A lot of our friends who are in the bands are in trenches right now, in a full-on combat, going in there where there's no guarantee you're going to come back. And it's tangibly dangerous every second of the day. Just the other day, a friend of mine told me that her father, who lives in Eastern Europe, just was diagnosed with cancer, and he went to fight. It's amazing to see how, they're completely, they're witty, their spirit is high. They're not laying low.
Who do you think's done the most good?
Beavers did a lot greater good in this world than humans. They're like a creature with divine mission to build and build and build. When those other species like muskrats are unfit in the winter time to go and get some food, beavers will go out and get food for them.
Hater Liquidator, there's a Joe Strummer vibe. And my favorite Joe Strummer quote is, "The future is unwritten."
Well, first of all, I love Joe Strummer, and I was lucky enough to meet Joe. I met him actually backstage at Ron DMC show.
Hello and welcome to We Wreck Records. I'm your host, Christina Rowett, and we're here to get deep into music that moves the needle, now and forever. Today we have a very special guest, Eugene from Gogol Bordello. He is here to celebrate their new album, We Mean It, Man.
That's right, Joe. Here it is.
That's
got it on vinyl. Looking good right there.
Big vibes.
So, this way. There we go.
So, We Mean It, Man.
Yeah.
What means the most to you right now? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What excites you? What excites you the way everyone gets excited at a Gogol show?
Oh, yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine that I do have that ritual of jumping out of bed when the most uplifting idea comes through mind. I mean, as a long-standing yoga practitioner, I kind of start my day with that, but that starts in bed. So as thoughts go through the head, sometimes I don't finish my regimen. Most of the time I don't finish it.
This show is presented by Grillo's Pickles. Grillo's Pickles make the freshest, crunchiest, most delicious pickles. And even if you're not a pickle fan, you should try Grillo's today. Why not? Live a little. You can find them in the refrigerated section of your local grocery store, so chill out and eat a pickle. This show is proudly presented by Distrokid, and we have a special deal for all the musicians out there looking to release their new music fast. Distrokid helps over 2 million musicians around the world release on all major music streaming platforms and YouTube. You keep 100% of your earnings, can suss a huge range of features, and if you like this show, support this show by taking advantage of this incredible offer, 30% off your first year with DistroKid. Just head to distrokid.com/VIP/WeWreckRecords.
Because an exciting idea comes to mind that, it's time to bust out some funk and, get on with it. Today, I have the album I'm producing for Puzzle Panther, a new band that I'm started as producer, but also became part of. So Brian Chase of Yes, obviously, is our drummer. And today my driving force idea was, damn, I'm going to rock with Brian Chase in the studio. Because, there's something in that synergy. We're of same generation, and we feel that same catharsis that music brings in a very similar way. It's a really special way of making music. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're dialed into the frequency. You're dialed into the frequency of ideas.
Yes, and that's kind of my world. Even though, some really brilliant minds like Richard Feynman, the physicist, was somehow against this idea of frequency and called it frequency illusion. The people in a sort of kind of demolishing the idea that people in esoteric culture and a music, in a creative world sort of oftentimes rest upon this idea that there is this frequency that we share. Yeah, and somehow he was kind of debasing it. And I'm not even though I'm a fan of Richard, I kind of disagree with him massively with that. It's just so tangible. Like, how can it not be? And
Yeah.
it's so bonding and in so many ways. Yeah. So I'm certainly aware of similar frequency shared by people.
Well, it's the slipstream. And what I like about your music, you got like punk, gypsy music, hardcore, techno, whatever.
Mhm.
Let's not limit ourselves with genres. I actually hate genres as a music journalist. I think they're wildly limiting. I think every band is their own genre, and especially you. But what I think is interesting and what all of your music shares is it's all music that is almost, it's not just about the music, it's also about, because it's so physical, it's about the physical response you get in music. If you're at a techno show, it's half watching other people.
Of course.
Gypsy at a punk show, it's physical, you touch each other. How did you connect to these communities and when did the music move you?
Huh. Um, you know, trajectory of my life. I always was like the youngest person in the room as far as like my mentors in music go. Like they were just always, you know, some years ahead of me. So I was kind of getting this education just onto me in this unending faucet. I started with my father. Like I picked up all the classics of rock and from him. And then once I turned 13, 14, 15, I started hanging out with guys who were just already in the bands and became part of the band with older guys who were like, in their 20s, which is, or like, around 20, which is a huge difference when you were 14, 15. And I just kind of absorbed everything around me. I mean, they were a lot more resourceful. I mean, they had massive record collections. They knew people that knew other gurumatic personalities around town. That's like back in Ukraine
Yeah.
still. And plus, I think the advantage of the kind of advantage in disguise of growing up like in say punk rock scene in Kyiv, which is not part of was not part of worldwide network of punk rock yet
Yeah.
back then. But the advantage of it is that essentially you're missing out on chronology events because there is no infrastructure. You don't know which album came out when. Often it's just you get tape and it says, Joy Division on one side and Devo on another, and Black Flag at the end, like where there's left more, some space left. So, and you just kind of like, okay, well, did it all come out in 1988? I mean, you just have no idea, And for a nerd, that's a big disadvantage. But for like a creative, stimulus, it's kind of amazing and liberating because you're just taking it in its purity. Like
Yeah, well, the
chronology is
music.
dissolved, and genres are kind of banded, and it's like, okay, we're just in punk scene and all of these things are somehow affiliated with punk rock, and you
100%.
take it all in, and then you make your own music out of it, and you have pockets of friends who are into metal and hardcore, and then others who are just like, oh no, for Christ's sake, it's only about Kraftwerk and maybe Devo at the most, Like you get the super aesthetic people, just
You had cool friends.
yeah. I mean,
Well, I just think like
for
for the
sure,
younger
yeah.
generation who grew up on the internet, I think there's something a lot more, there's something very beautiful about learning from older friends, learning from, in my case, older boyfriends. I got given 800 CDs, like with New Order, with all this cool stuff,
Right,
and I was a little baby goth. He gave me 400 CDs, and it changed
right.
my entire universe. And there's
Yeah.
something about that passing down their children, their musical children here, like almost guidance, like the way through the beast. Like I connected it this way, so here's a way you can connect with it. That's really kind of poetic, and I think it shows that you received these babies lovingly. That sounds weird, but I think you get it.
Yeah, you get it. In my case, it was my girlfriend. Actually, she was at that time she was she was older than me, and she was coolest designer and a painter in the scene. So she made album covers for all the bands.
Mad.
I mean, so it's like her music collection. I mean, I heard the Smiths and Susan and Bansh's first time from her. It's
Yeah.
just kind of like, okay, here's more art punk with xylophones and tripped out guitars without distortion, and that is also somehow punk rock. Okay, let me wrap my head around that. But and because of these essentially sage-like figures, you get to shortcut fast to the next level of
Mm.
of the musical evolution. So
When
I
the
really
character,
enjoyed the
yeah.
process.
Well, that's cool. When the coolest girl of all time gives you the heads up, that works out. Like, when, and I think, like, oh, I have so many things to ask. There's a lot of characters in the there's a lot of characters in this scene and in these worlds. In some ways, characters are constructed more in the modern world, can feel, they're constructed. There was something kind of mystical and mysterious about what they put out into the world. It wasn't social media, or it was something else. Like Hater Liquidator, there's like a Joe Strummer vibe to that song in particular. And my favorite Joe Strummer quote is, "The future is unwritten." What does the future look like in Eugene's world? What does the unwritten future look like?
Well, first of all, I love Joe Strummer, and I was lucky enough to meet Joe.
For real?
Yeah, actually, it's a story that yeah I ended up putting in my book uh, because it was one of the really inspiring stories that sticks with you forever. I did not recognize the fact that it was Joe Strummer when I was hanging out with him because of his incredibly down to earth, humble character. Like I met him actually backstage at Ron DMC show at one of my
What?
first days in New York City. Literally, it's like I just somehow got these passes to go to with my girlfriend to a show, and we snuck backstage to get some beer. And there was this old keg, absolutely old school keg stand party, not keg stand, keg beer keg party. Keg stand is a little too frat boyish. So I just started talking to people around the keg about about the Stooges box set, which just came out at that time. And I just got like swarmed into this conversation because, I'll be there to talk about the Stooges till 6 a.m. on any day of the week. And one of the people was kind of really struck me with his erudition. And he kind of had like this beyond alternative music view and music. He knew about like gypsy music from Romania. He knew about Fela Kuti. He knew about like desert blues. And I was like, wow, who's this guy? And then we talked for about 20 minutes. And then as he walked away, another person came up to me and said, hey, listen, how was it for you meeting great Joe Strummer? I was like, wow, oh my God, listen, how could I not clock this? Of course it was Joe. I mean, who else would it be? This
Yes.
motherfucker is one of the coolest motherfuckers I ever met. Of course it was Joe Strummer. So then later on at the after party, of course, I had another conversation with Joe that same night. But now from a more,
Informed
fan of the
perspective.
Clash, point of view. And I think something was telling me, that he liked the first conversation better because it was just
Well,
pure.
well, this
It
is
was pure. Here's two music heads talking about obscure music.
Well, he would get a lot of people interacting with him as the idea of Joe Strummer. So you didn't interact with the idea of him, you interacted with the person. And I think that's powerful.
Exactly.
I've been doing this for like 15 years and I've only been starstruck to the point of not talking once. and that was PJ Harvey. I had nothing to say to her. It was terrifying. I was like, you are the queen of rock and roll. I got nothing, man. I got nothing. Like, but yeah, like Joe like, I hate the word politics. It's not about that. It's bigger than that. Like, it's about the universe. Like, he had a lot to say. And look, you're coming from an interesting place, especially coming from the Ukraine. I feel like we are often in this world tortured spectators. We are watching this shit unfold and we can't do anything about it. Like, it's just, but there's something a lot more close to home about it happening in your own country. And obviously you've lived through a lot of stuff. How did that affect like the way you wanted to speak out and just yourself, like having that immediate experience of this thing? I actually have a friend who was a guitar tech who decided to go fight in Ukraine recently. He said, for a huge artist, he was just like, you know what? This is a job for life and it's fine, but I need to go and do something that matters to me. I need to go work for Nintendo. I need to feel, I need to actually contribute in a way that's not, well, I mean, the other guy like plays to hundreds of thousands of people, but there's something about like, this is real, man. That was a really long question, but pick up wherever you want to pick up.
Well, big respect to people when they make that kind of choice, to be tangibly helpful. I mean, going back to Ukraine twice since the war began, I also met a lot of people there who were like from UK or from Sweden or Poland, who were just doing essentially God's work, as they say, going in there where there's no guarantee you're going to come back. And I mean, it's tangibly dangerous every second of the day. And then at the same time, I hear stories like this all the time about people just deciding, hey, listen, just the other day, a friend of mine told me that her father, who lives in Eastern Europe, just was diagnosed with cancer, and he went to fight because he's like, I instead of withering,
Whoa.
I'm gonna go and do as much good as I can before his flame goes up.
That makes my heart kind of a little.
Well, listen, we all had to hunker up here and
yeah,
on a daily basis process information that's just so jarring that I mean, even talking to my family and friends regularly. I talked on Sunday with my childhood friend who's with his whole family is in Kyiv right now, and we used to work in a band together, and a lot of our friends who are in the bands are in trenches right now. You can see them on TikTok with drones flying around and operating drones and just like in a full-on combat. And it's I used to play jam with this person when I was 16, in Kyiv, and inspired by Cure and and the Clash and Nick Cave, and Joy Division. And now their life is transformed to this, to maximum risk.
Yeah.
And at the same time, one of the things that always impresses me in a new way, because you can never really get used to this. People adapt, but they don't get used to it. But it's amazing to see how they're completely they're witty, their spirit is high. They're not laying low with their ears tucked in, no, that's not the situation. They're just like, hey, listen, we're gonna win. That's it. There's no other option.
I hope they have headphones. I've always wondered, do people at war have headphones? Probably not. That's a weird ass question.
I think in some cases, yes. In some instances, yes.
Well, music plays a role, and I think that's a tangible, if you're not fighting, at least you can shift the vibration of people who are, wherever they are. Yeah, that all of that, I don't know, my heart kind of breaks for the world right now.
Yes, it's in a very intense. The world is spinning very fast, and
That's a really cool way of putting it. And you've got like Hate a Liquidator, Life is Possible Again, No Time for Idiots. A lot of them are about the world around us and the crazy world around us.
Yes.
And yeah, and I
I'm
guess
not really I'm not really a fantasy writer, that's for
no,
sure.
look, man, I got no time for dragons. Like we're not
Yeah,
Iron Maiden. Like nothing wrong with Iron Maiden, but
nothing
look,
wrong. Nothing wrong.
nothing wrong with some dragons. But man, I don't know. I want to like I think if you're not internalizing what's going down in the world, you're not paying attention. Like it's a lot. So, I mean, Life is Possible Again. You talk about a time after this dark time. What do you think it will take? So my theory is it's going to be a cataclysmic climate event. I'm really hoping it's not nuclear war because then it'll be really hard. We'll die. But I'm thinking like some climate thing is going to, that's my thing. And or like all the wars end and everyone gets to go home and have their lives back. And I don't know. It's good to dream.
I think we've been in the middle of cataclysmic event for a while already, and remembering like words of my grandparents who all went to World War II and all had wounds in their shoulders and hips. So I could tangibly observe that they were there, and it was a daily reminder. You know, they often talked about that it's the, the tough times were after the war. Like war is a one kind of catastrophe,
Mm,
but after the war and finding the spirit to rebuild after the war, that was a whole another
mm.
um you know, like where they really had to pull out the energy out of some deep bone marrow. You know, it was reaching into a cellar that they didn't know that was even there, you know. And so this song is kind of is written from memories of talking to them about that. It's like making life possible again when you think it's impossible. And it's coming from that place of reflecting on their experience and anticipating that, you know, humankind, luckily we do have ability to heal and grow new tail and grow new wings, and you know, and you know, it's insane what's happening right now on so many fronts, but it's pointing towards, you know, like you were saying, the shifting the frequency, helping along shift the frequency into the fact that we are gonna have to all join forces to heal together after this and still find, um, you know, a way to levitate above the demolition that's happening,
You can tell you're a
rebuild
lyricist,
it
bro.
all.
You can tell you write lyrics. Just a heads up. A growing wings and tail. We need to levitate. That's yeah.
Yeah,
You got some grasp on language, dude. I appreciate it. And it's look, it's interesting like watching like America become engaged, like protest and you know, there being a you know, sometimes I feel like I have some worries that protest was more powerful in the 60s when there was one TV station and it was on there and people were less propagandized. But it is powerful
yeah.
to see people unite and feel like they're kind of not everyone. That's a whole other No Time for Idiots is a whole other song that, you know, I really I really think that's a lot about. There's a subset of the world who don't really see things the way the rest of us see it. And I don't know if that's kind of it also makes me want to dance.
Well,
Uh,
you know, actually, etymology of the word idiot apparently comes from Greek word uh, idiot, which meant that it wasn't any kind of insult actually. It was simply a term for somebody who is not concerned with political events and kind of trying to stay out of it all. So, you know, it's one of the meanings of that. And you know, I was when I read that, um, the song kind of came out of that, kind of riffed on that to draw that point that that is a pretty it wasn't meant to be insulting, but it's not still yet it's not the way to go to be try to be to just sort of just, you know, reach some kind of enlightenment on some top of some fucking mountain that, you know, and isolate yourself from any information.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's good. Like, I think, like, taking your grandparents' stories and taking the stories of Greek philosophers, like, I think it's very important to pass things down. And I think, like, I live in Australia and we have the oldest living culture in the history of the planet. It's where I think we're at 40, 60,000 years. And there's, you know, there's like hundreds of dialects. There's the dream time is all about passing stories down. So, you know, there is kind of an immortality to music and passing the stories down the way. And I think that's important to draw from clearly your wide knowledge and personal experience to like do that. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
So Australia, that's not just a word for me. I mean, I'm a long-standing fan of whole Australian school of rock and stomp and the swamp rock. Yeah, it's a you know. I just saw the Saints actually the other day.
Oh, dope. You met them?
Yeah, we of course we said hello afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, Ed Cooper and stuff. I used to
So
work at a recording studio. I used to come in all the time.
yeah, well, Mick Harvey was playing with them.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so you know, obviously from the bad seats, and yeah, and then you know the whole continuation of the tree, you know, with a birthday party, of course, and the scientists and Be Suburban. I mean, I saw Be Suburban here in New York City some years ago, and of course, you know, Midnight Oil, and
yeah, man.
I've been keeping an
We're
eye
no
on you guys.
slouch.
Yeah.
We're no slouch in the contribution. And
No,
fun fact, 1980s, I interviewed a rock photographer who's done a lot of album covers and really amazing portraits. He said in the 1980s, Sydney, Australia was the absolute pinnacle destination of live music in the world. There were 5 gigs a night, and obviously those were the bands that we had in the mix. So it's now not that, but I like to dream about time traveling back to a place.
Well, you still get Emil and the Sniffers, you know, carrying the torch.
Yeah, man, got to do it. But I love the world. The world, like we're on the opposite side of it. But hey, through the internet, I can talk to people like you and around the world and learn things. And I hope teach people a bit of history. Like this is about like musical history and a spoken word history. That's what this show's about. So speaking of Nick Cave, your producer Nick Launay is a bit of a living legend. He has
Absolutely
produced Amol and the Sniffers, Yeah Yeah Yeahs, your little friend, Nick Cave, all that stuff. And I think you all share something. There's some capital S songs, and I feel like the quest for a capital S song is, you know, it's interesting. Like artists can live off a capital S song for the rest of their career. You know, like maybe only need one. Like some people only need one song. Obviously, that's just going to give you a peak and then a dip. But people, I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, you've got a big personality, a strong voice, and a distinctive sound. You've talked about him being a bit of an alchemist. What did he alchemize and combine, and what kind of skins did you shed from working with him?
Yeah, that I was going to bring up word alchemy regardless.
I've ruined everything.
So, because, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, I first met Nick at a party years ago. And while we were making a record with Australian producer Victor van Voogd.
That's what's
there
up.
We go. Yeah, deep ties.
Yeah.
With,
thank you.
awesome.
Thank you for get out here, by the way. Come tour.
Exactly.
Duh.
It's about time. It's about a time.
It's about fucking time.
And so, you know, I was always aware of that whole family tree of bands from Australia and keeping an eye on all the developments at all times. So, you know, whatever Roland Howard would do later after the birthday party or whatever was basically coming from that school of playing. Actually Stu Spasm, who's also another Australian friend of mine and a living legend right here, whose new band, Art Grey Noise Quintet. We just played. They just supported us on New Year's show. So anyway, yeah, I met Nick back then at the party like years ago, and I just, we kind of aesthetically hit it off. Needless to say, because dancing around same tree, essentially, of post-punk groove. Yeah, and in fact, it kind of stood out to me, that meeting, that I almost kind of felt like, for some reason, probably because of like 6 or 7 Roman Cokes that were consumed, I kind of felt like, oh, we already made that record with Nick Launay, except we didn't. So, it was such a good hang. I was like, oh damn, that was a good one too. And then as this record, I started prepping it, I was like, wait a second. Well, the gate track to this record was this collaboration we did with Bernard Sumner. And because he put in such powerful, elegant synth into it, and it kind of brought up my whole side of me that was kind of, let's say it was running on a parallel track. It was not dormant by any means. It was on a parallel track, because here's the irony of my life, is that I kind of known at this point as acoustic guitar is my to-go-to thing, and sort of write with that. But it's just simply not true. I mean, acoustic guitar was like kind of a new thing for me when I started Gogol Bordello, because I was so tired of synthesizers and hardcore and fucking post-hardcore and psychobilly and all this music that I was making for previous decade. So I was like, wait a second, let's just delete it all and just start from the scratch, from vibrating string. Let's do this kind of like a neo-primitivist move.
Cool one.
And start a clean slate, exactly. Yeah. And but essentially, when I was starting Gogol Bordello, I had another project in the same time with one of the artists from Digital Hardcore label.
Like Atari Teenage Riot?
Yes, exactly, with David Hammer. From
Atari Teenage Riot got banned for life from an airline for trying to open the door while the plane was in flight. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Rowdy Crew.
That shit was punk rock when punk rock was boring. When I was a kid, it was like punk is Green Day. I'm like, that's not. I almost scare my parents. That shit was punk rock.
Exactly. It was like after punk rock was kind of, after punk, the hardcore was the new punk, then the hip hop was the new punk after the hardcore, then techno was the new punk, and then digital hardcore was the new punk. So I was kind of following that vector all the time. And David Hammer, whose art name was Shizuo, he had this awesome record out on DHR, and the Beastie Boys actually put out his record too on Grand Royal.
Mad.
Post that Beastie Boys right above us. So I met him here in New York, and we were just kind of like toying around with this another psycho idea of doing some kind of what would be the next thing after digital hardcore, what can it be? So we thought we're gonna have this do this crossover with like R&B singers, something completely like insanely manic. And then Gogol Bordello just kind of started taking off at the same time. But what if that would take off? What if I ended up getting consumed with those affairs? I'd be known as this crazy ass synthesizer guy.
Dude, you would have needed an outfit. You would have needed a whole aesthetic, like that is in line with that. Like you would have needed a goddamn outfit and a haircut. If you're going to go down that path, you would have needed a whole aesthetic. Like
exactly. I'm not leaving it. It's just getting chill here. So, it's always interesting to imagine where would that go. But I'm pretty sure that as a songwriter, though, nonetheless, I'm pretty sure that it will still get back to the songwriting. No, I'm
just going to focus on this. I think it's hilarious. I just love the idea of the left-hand path that you didn't take.
Oh, totally. I mean, my Old Believers was the name of the project. I mean, I thought that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I was always a fan of Suicide, Martin Rev and Alan Vega, and I just thought that it's time to, jumpstart that whole direction again. So it's kind of like this album, when that gateway track with Bernard Sumner kind of came to a realization and kind of really, really was an awesome collaboration, and we presented it live, and I was like, this is kind of the maximum potential. It's approaching maximum potential of Gogol Bordello now.
11.
Now that we have all these layers, because
Yeah.
we just kind of brought them up to the top, because live wise, we've been always using electronics to electro layer to make sound essentially modern.
Yeah, man.
Lord knows, I don't think it would, we remain popular because we constantly modernize our sound. Whether some people clock it or not, that's a whole other story. But even if you go to like Gypsy Punk's record, it's like, Immigrant Punk, one of the Gogol Bordellos kind of to go to, it's fully programmed track. I don't know why people don't clock it, There's always purists who are all about like,
Shout out immigrants all over the world. We're all immigrants.
Yeah,
this is stolen land. That's all I have to say on that.
Well, there is that too, and a lot of, unfortunately, humans back then didn't know a better way to. Actually, no. Wait a second. Since we're on this topic,
go on.
The Maclay Peninsula, right, in Australia. Well, Miklucha Maclay was a Ukrainian explorer. It's named after him.
Hey, you got your little mark on our country. Your country's got your major mark.
He was from Ukrainian Cossacks who was obsessed with anthropology and kind of going exploring, living with the tribes. So he went as far as I think he died in New Caledonia, living with the tribes. He became permanent. He was there like. There's amazing literature on that. You can look it up and trip out on that.
If you would like to have something named after you, what would it be? Like a space in the world, or a street?
I don't know.
It's random, dude.
Think about in those terms.
Well, I don't think anyone has thought about that before. It's just a weird stream of consciousness. Think about stuff. I don't know, man. It's okay. We did good with the good we did. It's behind my microphone. Who do you think's done the most good, and what are the buried treasures saved for us?
Who did that? Well, it's certainly not humans. I think, I think beavers did a lot greater good in this world than humans.
Beavers.
Oh, they are. It's like they're like a creature with like divine mission to build and build and build, and it's installed in their hard drive.
That brings me so much joy.
They don't idle, they go forth. And here, get this. Beavers is one of the rare species that not only allows other species to live with them in a lodge, like they host, like during hibernation time, they like host muskrats and others.
What?
And then get this, when those other species like muskrats are unfit in the winter time to go and get some food, beavers will go out and get food for them.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's almost very like traditional. Like Christianity's been ruined, but like the teachings of Jesus, like taking care of people, like
that's what I'm saying.
If you go back to like the true meaning of it, which is like take care of people, loaves and fishes and shit. Like beavers, I think beavers should have something named after them. That would be dope. The Beaver Bridge.
I think
because it's a built structure.
Yeah, even without
a series of refuges. I've often thought about like one great contribution someone could make, and billionaires are awful, because you could create like communal refuges for women escaping domestic violence. You could create them all over the world. You could give them a place to start over. You could take care of their children. You could bring the women together in like communal ancient ways, and you could like teach them how to cook different stuff, give them new skills. This is so random. Give them new skills in jobs that won't be taken over by AI, so that they're set up for the future. And then the world would be in a better place. And that is my 2 cents. And there's something a bit like beavers in that, collective, taking care of each other.
Yeah.
Random
Well,
dude. Sorry, that's not
some
a question.
some progressive humans did think in that direction, and so that's how anarcho-syndicalism was born.
Yeah.
But it was never really driven home. So so as a species, we have a lot more work to do. I mean,
Yeah, man.
seems like beavers are still beating us as far as their aesthetic and ethical organization goes.
I think that's yeah, I think okay, so I'm gonna wrap things up briefly because I don't think we can get better than Beavers. A couple of things.
Mhm.
Um, if you put this record in a time capsule and put it in the sea or the earth or wherever, and it was to be found by someone 50 years from now, if we're still a planet, what would you write on the note?
Um, well, I think it's kind of in the case with this record, it's a kind of quintessential for us, and I think it's also a good document of the time. It's pretty accurate reflection of uh, all subcultures of various streaks of punk rock
Hmm.
actually meeting at one intersection, you know, because it was because I mean I think we know a thing or two about punk rock, and also making record with Nick Launay and Adam Greenspan. They work as a duo and most of the
Ding,
projects
ding, ding, press,
for
press
years.
button, press button, press button. It's mainly that.
No, but that's very important to mention because Adam's input is incredible on the record. But I think that Nick in particular is he kind of wove the spider web of a lot of music that is kind of falls semantically into post-punk category, but it's of course we can throw around semantics here all day. It doesn't really mean anything,
Mm,
except it does in terms of very particular boiled down distilled groove.
mm.
And if you really look at it, okay, we can toss out post-punk as a term altogether, but it is kind of useful in terms of like I wasn't there when punk rock revolution happened. Like
No,
I
you're its
was
baby. You're its little
I was a
baby.
baby. Everything time-wise, everything happened for me and my generation in a post-punk territory. I mean, hardcore and techno and hip hop and digital hardcore and all kind of neo-primitivism, revivalism, and avant-garde and all the hybrids of it really happened in so-called post-punk territory. And making this record with Nick, who's a master of that, because we really
100%.
were kind of aiming for incorporating all the juice that's been feeding us all along.
Last question. You're well read, you're well listened. If we were to say to the people out there, what is a book they have to read and an album they have to listen to, what would they be? And then we'll wrap things up.
Bolero by Ravel is a good kind of a musical piece to chime in into because, I mean, perhaps everybody already heard it a zillion of times, but it's kind of a really unifying piece of music that it's an important part of monoculture in a good way. It's great for rockers, young rockers, rockers of any kind. It's why it was admired by so many rock musicians because it's a kind of gateway into putting us all back together, touching base together with hypnotic, meditative, rocking, and yet grandiose, and yet somehow tangibly like accessible music. It's kind of
Right.
refined classical music, but it's also so right here. I mean, as a child, I was able to perform it with the orchestra when I was playing like my getting my formal musical training, playing bolero in an orchestra. I was like, wow, yeah, that's
You've
some.
lived a million lives, Eugene.
Nah, it was
Just
just
one.
it was a phase. I had to
Okay,
go
pick
and
a
see
book. Pick a book.
book. Yeah. Well, that's so difficult.
It is, it's a terrible question. It's like asking you
It's
to
a
pick your
terrible
favorite.
question. I think. My Life in a Bush of Ghosts by Amos Tutuola, a Nigerian writer.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a
We're
kind
going to
of
get people educated, man. That's what this show's about. People are going to read a book, bitches. That's what's up.
well, Fela Kuti just won a Lifetime Achievement Award, which was accepted by his son, Femi
He's the
Kuti, like
African
last
guy.
week.
He's the African guy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yes, the creator of Afrobeat.
Huge.
And yeah, now the family won the Grammy, the Lifetime Achievement Award Grammy, or whatever it's the real connotation, the title of it is. But the significant part is, I guess it was a big deal, and in terms of like somebody who is coming from Nigeria and who had such a massive impact on music that worldwide, because the impact reaches into most unexpected places. Like when I met Shane MacGowan and we talked, I met him
Hoax.
several times, you know.
Hoax?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the Pogues. So, you know, I already knew by that time that, Gogol Bordello is impossible without Pogues. It's the Pogues kind of gave us the blueprint of, you go back to these melodies
Yeah.
and you make modern music out of it. But Shane told me something very, I had an epiphany there. He said, well, he actually was inspired by Fela Kuti. When
Whoa.
he heard Fela Kuti making this new mind-blowing music out of Nigerian roots, that's when it kind of clicked for him. And of course, he was inspired by Sex Pistols and and then the rest of the London scene where he was growing up. But that was kind of a catalyst.
Yeah.
And I made some interesting math in my head instantly at that moment. I mean, Pogues is, Gogol Bordello is impossible without Pogues. Pogues is impossible without Fela Kuti. Gogol Bordello is impossible without Fela Kuti.
More children. You're all children of each other. It's
It's
just
kind of,
the family goes on forever. I
and,
think
and
I think that's a good I no.
yeah, I
I think
really do. I really do enjoy that, connecting those dots, and that was before. I mean, I would never make that math without, without putting it, without Shane's revelation, essentially.
awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. You have an
Yeah, thanks.
interesting band and an interesting mind, and I appreciate getting to have a little stroll around in both. So,
Yeah,
rock and or roll, you should come into Australia. Come on, you know.
it's coming up. I mean,
Yeah,
last time we were was 2019, I think, or 18.
yeah, come on. What are you doing? Get
Yeah,
on it.
what are we doing?
You got a new
We got to get
album.
it done.
Come on. Rest of
Yeah.
world,
Yes,
whatever.
there it is.
It's out. It's out now. Let's do it out. So thank you. This is We Rock Records. This is Eugene from Gogol Bordello. You should get that new music and read some books and have a good time and learn a bit of stuff about things. May the dark
That's
forces
right.
be with you.
That's right. Let's go out with a boom. Boom.
Boom.